In this exercise, we're going to start creating our routes. In order to do that, we actually need to first properly initialize this router object that we pass into router provider. So in order to do that, we're going to need a couple of utility methods from the React Router DOM library. The first one being the create browser router utility method. And what this method will do is that it's a utility method to help us initialize and create a router object that we can pass into the router provider. Now, the next utility method that we'll need is the create routes from elements utility method. And we need this because create browser router actually only accepts route objects as an argument. So what create routes from elements will do for us is that it will turn JSX route elements into route objects that we can use as arguments to create browser router. So it's a very cool method here. So now that they're imported, let's go ahead and use them. So first we're going to start with create browser router, and we're just going to wrap the entire JSX route element that's been defined for us with that. Now recall that create browser router only takes route objects, so we're going to have to use create routes from elements here and wrap the route element that's been defined for us. So we'll type out create routes from elements and make sure to align our parentheses properly here. So now as you can see, create routes from elements is getting the route element as an argument, and the return type is going to be a route object which we pass in to create browser router, and this will properly initialize our router object that we use as a prop value to router provider. So if we save this and go back to our browser, you'll notice that we no longer have a blank page in our local deployment. We also see some buttons being shown and also some navigation links at the top. So if you actually click on one of these, like the about, it'll change the URL path, but we'll get 404 errors because we don't have anything rendering at these paths right now. So let's go ahead and fix that. So back in our application, let's go ahead and create some route elements. So we're going to create our route elements within this route that's been defined for us, and this route is at the path / which is the root route, and it renders the root element. So essentially what that's doing is it's rendering everything that we always want to be shown in the screen, like the navigation bar and the forward and backward buttons, right? But everything in the middle, as we can see from the local deployment, is still blank, and this is where the rest of our routes will know to render their elements when the path changes. So inside this, the opening and closing tags of this root route is where we're going to define the rest of our routes. And we'll learn more about how this works when we talk about nested routes in a future exercise. So let's go ahead and start defining a route by removing this comment and using the route component. Now this route component can be self-closing because it's not going to have any children. And it's going to take two props, a path prop, which is going to be a string, and an element prop, which is going to be a JSX element that we define here. Now, the path prop is going to tell the router when it should render, and the element prop is going to tell the router what it should render when the path matches. So if we scroll up, we'll see some components have been imported for us, and we're going to go ahead and start with the about component. So back in this route, we're going to define the path as / about, but because this route is inside of another route, its path is going to be relative to its parent's path. And again, we'll explain more of this when we get into nested routes, but for now, just know that we don't need to actually include the / at the beginning of the path. And in the element prop, we're actually going to initialize the about component here. So now that this route is defined, it's saying we're going to render on the / about path, and we're going to render the about component. So let's go ahead and save our work and see what we see in the browser. So if we navigate back to our browser and click on the about link, you'll notice that the path changed to / about, and now we actually have some content here in the middle. Right, and this paragraph, if we go to the about component, we'll see that it's the content that's defined in this about component. So React Router has noticed that the path has changed to /about and rendered the about component respectively. Okay, so if we actually click on the other routes like /articles, we'll notice that we'll still get 404s because we haven't defined those routes. So let's go back to our application and try to fix that. So let's define some more route elements. So under the other route element that we defined, let's define a new route component. This one is going to render the sign up component at the sign up path, so /sign up. So we're going to define the path as that, and the element is going to be the sign up element. Then we're going to define another route, and this route is going to go to the path articles or /articles, and it's going to render the articles component or element. Then we're gonna do a couple more here. So we're gonna do another route element, and its path is going to be categories, and it's going to render the categories element. And lastly, we're gonna go ahead and render one more route at the path profile. So /profile, and we're going to render the profile component here. Oh, we made a mistake here. Let me do Control-Z here. Close this route element properly. Now that all of our routes have been defined, if we go ahead and save it and navigate back to our browser, we'll notice that if we click on our navigation links, they all render something when the path changes. So /categories renders the categories content, sign up renders the sign up content. We did a great job adding our routes, and we can see now that our application is coming together. So great job everybody, and I'll see you in the next exercise.